Welcome to another You Comment, We Respond. The first hand we're going to talk about is, could you have won more than Phil Hellmuth in this hand? Click right up there to check it out. For a little recap, we'll let you know what happened. It was a limped pot on Poker After Dark in which Phil had pocket fours. It was a 5-5 deuce flop. Antonio led out with king deuce. Phil called with his fours. Huckseed and Annette Oberstad both called. They both had trip fives, 5-7 and 5-3 respectively. The turn was a 4 of clubs, bringing not only a full house for Phil, he used his white magic to get that one, I think.
Pretty good.
It also brought a flush. There were 3 clubs now. Everybody checked, which was crappy for the magic man, the white magic man.
That's what they call him, the magic man.
That's what they call him. The river was a 6, bringing a straight for Annette Oberstadt with her 5-3. Phil bet into everybody, and everybody, including Annette, folded.
So, still trying to help, has to say. Annette really needs to be raising this river as a bluff with her double premium blockers.
Cool.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
Yeah,
great.
Double premium.
Not just single premium. Yeah. Not only does she have 5s full blocked really hard, there's a lot going on in this one.
Yeah.
Okay, but she even has blockers to both of the straight flushes. If Annette isn't bluffing with this perfect bluffing hand, what is she ever bluffing with?
Well, I don't know if this is the perfect bluffing hand.
Yeah.
First of all, I think probably the ace of clubs is included in the perfect bluffing hand here.
Agreed.
But it might just feel like too good of a hand to turn into a bluff. Although she did fold, so she didn't think it was a good enough hand to call with. So your point is cool. It's definitely a cool point, I want to say that. I'm just not sure if it's necessary in this size pot to turn it into a bluff.
Maybe a better bluffing hand, if you're not going to use the ace of clubs specifically, maybe 4 deuce is a good bluffing hand also, because now you're covering up a lot of the full houses. You're blocking a lot of them anyway, and you're actually not blocking any flushes, and maybe you can get a flush to fold.
Sure.
You'd be hoping.
But we're picking at it. We're picking at it a little bit. This is a cool point.
Absolutely.
This is a really cool point. I like the idea. I don't know about having 5s full blocked really hard. If you had quad 5s, that would be it would be hard to have 5s full then.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
You can turn those quad 5s into a bluff easily. Nobody can have 5s full.
You can fold out quad 7s. Yeah. You know? They're like, what am I going to do?
I don't have 5s full anymore. Yeah.
All right. Pranay Chawla says, this is just a terribly played hand all around.
Strong words.
It's reasonable for Phil to limp with baby pairs under the gun, so that's okay. Is it, by the way? But everyone else just enters the pot too light. If you're gonna play the 5-3 offsuit, take the betting lead, especially from the button. That's still not the worst part. I think Huck's decision to flat the flop and then Annette's to overcall 2 guys is insane. What are those 2 hoping will happen later? Are they just hoping to boat up?
I can agree mostly about Huck's call. I don't know if it's bad necessarily, but you would expect a raise because there is a flush draw out there. You're very likely to have the best hand. There's a lot of value to be had by raising as Huck.
Sure.
With Annette's hand, there's already 3 people in there. I mean, it's a little scary, but it's kind of too good of a hand to fold.
You can't fold it. It'd be crazy to fold it. But I think raising is also kind of insane. It's likely someone has a 5. By the way, Antonio betting out. I know he has a deuce, a good deuce, but he absolutely could be betting trip 5s here.
Yeah.
And so when Annette has the worst possible kicker with her 5, her raising seems sort of insane as 2 people have already called Antonio's bet. I wouldn't like that. And by the way, she would be behind. Right? Huck is ahead of her. Now, both of them have bad kickers, but still.
Some of you might be thinking, then why doesn't Annette just fold? Well, that's kind of a game theoretical thing. The hand is just too high up in her distribution to fold here. It's too exploitable.
I mean, she can absolutely have the best hand, but it's hard to get a lot of value if she raises.
Yeah.
Right? And she can often get herself in huge trouble if she raises because someone may re-raise back. And
she has to fold basically then.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So we can just call, because she's on the button, actually, it's really valuable because now she gets to see what everyone does on the turn and on the river, and she can decide to fold later if there's a lot of action or particular sizing that scares her. Next up, we have most confusing hand ever?
Maybe.
With Jake Cody and Robert Mizrachi.
Click right up there to check it out.
For sure. Jake Cody opened under the gun +1 with ace-5 suited, and Robert Mizrachi called in the big blind with pocket 8s. The flop was Jack-9-7, rainbow.
So far, so good.
Cody continued, and Mizrachi called with his pocket 8s and the best hand. The turn was the ace of clubs, bringing a second club. Cody continued to continue. Now he has top pair. That's pretty good. Mizrachi check raises, and check raises small.
That was weird.
Very strange. Cody calls. The river is an offsuit 4? Yes. Mizrachi checks. Cody moves in for about a pot-sized bet, which we thought was very confusing, and Mizrachi called with his pocket 8s, and of course lost the hand.
Yeah.
Really interesting, strange hand.
Yes.
So here's what Henning Andre had to say. There's an interview with Cody in the episode. He says that he thinks Mizrachi has a hand that is marginal, and he wants to get to showdown without getting a bet from Cody on the river. Makes no sense, I know, But that is what Cody thinks Mizrachi is up to.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, I know. Later in the interview, he also mentioned that he represents the misdraws so hard that Mizrachi will call with his marginal hand. Cody seems like a guy that knows what he's doing.
I definitely agree with that. Cody seems like a guy that knows what he's doing. He's right in these spots more often than he's wrong, in these very confusing spots that we don't fully understand, so we have to give him some implicit credit, I suppose.
Absolutely.
However, I don't know how he can know that Mizrachi has marginal value. All we have is what we said originally, which is basically, once Mizrachi checks the river, it looks like he's giving up and he was taking a shot, and Jake feels very sure that he has the best hand, so he might as well go for value. But I don't feel like that's good enough. I mean, that's all we got, though.
It's so hard to decide that Mizrachi has a pair and is also bluffing on the turn, and then will still call on the river when we shove with a worse hand. It just seems like it's asking so much. It all came in, but I don't know if it's a good play. But Jake seems so sure of himself, and he's right. It's hard to say it's a bad play. I mean, it seems like it's an incredible play, right?
It does.
Yeah. DRF says, Mizrachi wasn't expecting many folds when he raised the turn. Rather, he was representing draws and setting himself up for a river shove when scare cards hit. When no scare cards hit, he gave up. It's not particularly difficult to understand his reasoning on the turn, even if you disagree with it.
Well, okay, a couple things.
Go on.
That's not necessarily his reasoning. I can't necessarily agree that that's his reasoning.
Yeah.
But maybe based on how it played out, it is. Perhaps.
I think the river makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think the notion that he's representing a draw on the turn with a check raise is questionable at best.
And if that's his reasoning, hear me out here.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's not good reasoning. I don't like that at all. There's a couple things that have to happen for that reasoning to be okay. Actually, it can't be okay. He has to have such a good thing happen. He has to have, first of all, the draw has to come in. And if we include straight draws, that's going to happen about a third of the time.
Right.
That's not great. That's not very much. Then on top of that, Jake Cody has to fold. Jake Cody could not only have a much better hand than he has, like a set of aces, he could also have the big draws himself that certainly won't fold when Mizrachi moves in. So even if we get to that 1/3, it's got to be at least half of the time, maybe not at least half, but around half the time that Cody still calls on the river when we move in. So I don't see how that could be a good plan.
It seems bad, but also the notion that you're representing draws instead of representing value is unusual. Like, it's rare to represent a bluff when you check raise, right? Because when you represent a bluff, if you do too good a job, you're just going to get moved in on, right? They're just going to re-bluff you if they don't have anything. It seems like not a good way to play high-level poker against really good players, right? You have to at least represent balance, right? You have to they have to believe you can have value, not just nothing at all.
I appreciate the comment, though. It's definitely a different perspective and not something we considered.
Absolutely.
But if that is truly Mizrachi's intention, I don't like it. The final hand of this You Comment We Respond involves who might be our favorite player collectively. It's possible.
Maybe.
Davide Kitai, because that guy's amazing.
Yes.
The hand was called This Guy Can See Into Your Soul for obvious reasons, because Davide Kitai has those abilities.
Yes.
Yes, he does. And if you want to see the hand, click right up here. What happened in the hand was Gordon Veo, yes, that Gordon Veo, was on the button in a heads-up match with Davide Kitai for a World Series bracelet. He limped 10-8 off. Kitai raised very small with Queen Jack of Spades. Veo called. The flop was 9-9-7 with 2 hearts. Kitai continued very small, 95K into 400K. Veo called. The turn was the Ace of Diamonds, bringing a second diamond, so there are 2 flush draws now. Kitai continued very small. Again, Veo called again. The river was the 5 of clubs, completing 6-8, but none of the other draws. Kitai checked. Veo bet about a third of the pot. Kitai looked inside of Veo's brain and soul and obliterated him and called.
Yeah. After he sort of moved through like what he had for lunch the day before and things like that.
He's like, oh, Queen High is good every time here. I'm Davide Kitai.
Yeah. So Brian Lagan says, do you not think Veo folds King High on the turn facing that bet? This means Kitai can't lose to any of Veo's bluffs on the river.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, if he had King High Hearts or Diamonds, he certainly wouldn't be folding the
Right.
turn.
He has to stick around with those.
I think a more important question is, would Veo bet those on the river? He might think he has enough showdown value with his King Highs that he doesn't need to bet the river.
It would be very close. He might decide to bet. He might.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He might
Also,
just check.
on top of that, he would have had to limp that preflop, and we know that Veo was raising sometimes preflop in this match, so King High hands are usually going to raise.
Especially suited kings.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a good point. That it's harder for him to have King Highs than maybe we're giving you credit
But the
for.
source of your point is correct. Like, Kitai has a pretty perfect bluff catcher here with Queen Jack.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, moving on. Michael Piccolo says, starting to seem more than coincidental that a hand pops up here a week after Doug Polk does it, ha. And then Michael Seago responded, yeah, I know, no copying Polk. Do rare hands, ones we haven't seen before.
Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, we actually believe it or not, we don't watch Doug Polk's channel and say, let's do that hand.
No, we do not.
We actually have a process, and the way it works is, as you may know if you watch our other videos, you guys send in suggestions to us via Twitter. We're at Two Poker Guys, and then we pick 4 hands each week, and we put them on Patreon, and our patrons pick from those hands, and those are the ones we do. So they vote on it, and we do those hands. So we actually don't even have a direct say in which hand is happening each week.
Right. On top of that, we film a lot of these things a week out or more, maybe 2 weeks sometimes. So we don't know if Doug's going to do that after. We could have filmed it, and then Doug put it out, and then ours comes out. It might be that sequence. We don't know. We're not copying anybody. He's not copying anybody.
No.
There's just a finite amount of good poker hands, and a lot of people want to see them analyzed, so that's what we do.
Also, nowadays, we're all making a lot of breakdowns. I think Doug's doing 5 a week. We're doing 3 a week. There's going to be some natural overlap anyway. And also, I know a lot of people, at least in certain hands that we've done before, have mentioned that they feel like our analysis and Doug's analysis are very different. I'm thinking specifically of the Michael Ruan James Opes hand, also the Kui Win James Opes hand, where like very, very different. Doug came to, I think, the opposite conclusion is like what people report back anyway.
Yeah.
But we're not like watching Doug's videos and watching his channel so closely. We're really focused on this one and doing our own thing, as I'm sure he is too. We know he exists. We certainly respect him, but we're doing our own thing over here.
Yep.